Dealing with time wasters and idea thieves can be tough. All you want is to talk to serious prospective clients that value your time and expertise as a builder. You may already charge for quotes, but how can you charge prospective clients for the initial meeting? How do you create an offer where prospective clients are happy to pay and in return you can give them better experience and information? In this webinar, you will learn 5 things. Number 1, how to charge for the initial engagement. Number 2, eliminate tire kickers and idea thieves. Number 3, avoid being the price checker. Number 4, be paid for your time, expertise, and IP. No more freebies. And number 5, attract the best clients who value what you offer. We've teamed up with Richard Armstrong from ProCalc to give our builders the info and tools to make this a reality. Welcome everyone to today's webinar with Richard Armstrong from ProCalc. The topic for today is how to charge for the initial engagement. So this is not how to charge for quotes. I know a lot of our builder clients have adopted, use like charging for quotes, right? And we won't really talk too much about that today. I mean, it might slip in here and there, but this is about charging for that initial engagement prior to charging for a quote. And this is a really exciting topic because we've had a few clients do this in their business and it's made a huge difference in terms of, getting the right clients, getting buy-in from clients from the get-go, but also it's there for you to educate the client even more and create a better relationship, okay? It's, I know a lot of builders, they deal with time wasters. They are almost scared of, having this initial engagement in place, but without the initial engagement, you don't really have an engagement. So this is going to be huge. So I'm really grateful to have Richard here today on how you can make this, how you can charge for it, because this means how to charge means they've got to give you money. And for them to give you money, they have to see some sort of value in it. And Richard's going to go through that today. Just real quick. So the way it'll work today is Richard will have a presentation on how to charge for the initial engagement. He's got all the visuals there. So for some of those out there, those of you out there, visual kind of like thinkers, you'll have the visual side, but also he'll be explaining it all. And then also there will be a time for Q&A afterwards. One thing I do suggest is that you ask questions throughout, okay? So that you don't forget the question later on. And if it's going to be, unique to the conversation at that point in time, we'll get Richard to answer that question right then and there. So definitely type your questions there. That'll be amazing. So yeah, we'll get it kicked off with you, Richard. So if you want to share your screen, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Corno. I'll just get this going now. Are you guys? Are people able to see my screen there with the grey background?
Yeah. So guys, just real quick, the chat is disabled. Just hit Q&A. Just hit it in a question. Yep. Cool. Yeah, people can see it, mate.
Hey, that's great. And look, I understand that it looks like we've got quite a few people on the call, so that's really awesome. So thank you guys for interrupting your day and spending time on something that is that I genuinely believe will make a huge difference in the way that you work with clients and the way that you engage with clients. So I'll step you through that. I'm a builder myself, so I'm not interested in wasting your time with BS. It's really about just making sure that you get good solid information out of this session that you can implement in your business in a really effective way. So just talking about charging for engagement and why it's important. What it allows you to do is charge for more than just quotes in your early stages. So we want to try and do that because charging for quotes is a good thing and you should be doing that. Also charging for preliminary works. I can't say that, preliminary works. You really want to do that as well because it's your time and effort and you should be contributing, you should be getting a reward for that. But the good thing about charging right from the very beginning is that you do get to eliminate tire kickers and idea thieves. So people who are just there to pick your brain or to work out, how do we do this? And that, well, we'll just get some builder in and we'll just pick his brain. we want to try and eliminate those clients, because they're never going to turn into good clients for you. They're going to turn into clients that are just trying to always steal from you. And we don't want that. What we want are people who value your time as much as you do. So the other thing that it will also do is it will help you avoid being the price checker. So if clients are prepared to pay for your time early and upfront, it means that they value your time and that they will engage with you. They won't just drag you in at the last minute to say, hey, can you just check this price? And so if they are paying for your services up front, it positions you as a trusted expert, somebody who's got knowledge and expertise around this. And I'll show you how we can make that work a little bit better for you. Also, to be paid for your time and your expertise and your IP. So when you go and meet a client for the very first time, they are asking you a whole range of questions, and we're going to unpack what those questions are. But if you're giving away the answers to those questions for no charge, what it means is that you're training the client to just expect freebies from you. And you know, that's really not a fair use of your time and your expertise. So you've probably been in the construction industry for many years. You've developed a whole expertise. You've gone and got yourself registered. You've gone and done a Cert 4 in construction, or possibly a diploma. And so you've actually done a whole lot of work and effort to make sure that you've got the right information in your head. That shouldn't be given away as a freebie. It's not like when you rock up to the dentist and you sit in the chair and say, hey, look, I've got a sore tooth. I'm just wondering if you could check it out for free, just to see if there's a problem there. Okay, that's you'd never do that with a dentist, and a client shouldn't do that with you either. So that's a key thing. The other part of it too is that we want to make sure that you can attract the best clients who value what you offer. Okay, so really training them and educating them to understand that you are an expert in what you do. So that's a really key step that we'll be moving through as well. Just briefly, a little bit about me. So registered builder, and I've basically spent the last 2 years interviewing other registered builders about how they engage with clients. So I'll just sort of step you through that. So it was basically me on the phone interviewing quite literally hundreds and hundreds of builders about the sorts of challenges that they experience in their business. And then what I would do is I would talk with them about how they solve those issues. Now, some of the people that I spoke to, they didn't have solutions for those issues. However, there was a select group that did have solutions for those issues. And so that's what we're going to be talking a fair bit about today. So really sharing the benefits of what they did. So the key issues that they talked about when I was speaking to them, the first thing that builders talked about was wasting time on poor prospects. So wasting time on clients that were never going to become a good client. Either they weren't in the right location, or there wasn't the right job, or the client wasn't a good fit, or you just plain didn't really trust the client. You didn't feel that they were going to be able to deliver what they needed. So that's one of the key things they talked about. Also, costing client jobs where they never heard from the client again. So they'd put in a whole heap of work to cost the job, and then the client would just disappear once they'd got the price. And so, and that really is it feels like such a cheat for the builder, because you put a whole lot of effort in, and they just disappear on you. So that was something that really frustrated the group that I was talking about. Also, being distracted from real paid work. So if you've got the boys on site, or if you're on site yourself, you are there generating income, doing work that you're going to get paid for. If you're not doing that, if you're instead, dealing with somebody who may or may not become a client, if you're not being paid for that, it's sort of like double the pain, because it's high risk. They may not come through. And as well as that, you're not being paid for the work. So that was something they talked about, having their brains picked for ideas and free advice, which I touched on earlier. And that was something that quite a few of them that I spoke to really got frustrated about. And then losing control of the client and their expectations. And what they meant by that was that the client would start saying, oh, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, and da-da. And this is all because the client wasn't attaching a price tag to the engagement that they'd had to that point. To that point, it had been free. And so the builder had spent time with the client answering questions and addressing, queries. And then the client would say, well, look, I'd really like to find out more about these plans. What do you think of these plans? Can I show you these plans? What do you think of these? And so what would happen is that the client would then take the builder down a path of expecting more free advice, which is, I can understand clients want that, but unfortunately builders are highly skilled and they have a high degree of expertise, and you shouldn't be giving away that expertise for free. Just talking about the next one there is, obviously, if you're spending time with clients that are kicking your tires, then it's very hard to get work-life balance. And a lot of the builders that I spoke to is that they talked about having to do quotes or office work at night when they get home, and that's really hard work for anybody to be burning the candle at both ends. The other thing they talked about is sometimes having limited trust or rapport and needing to grow that. So, and this ties in with the not being the price checker that I was talking about earlier. If you can build trust and rapport very, very early in the process, what that does is it makes you the go-to expert. And that's really what you want to be. You don't want to be the builder who's dragged into the process right at the very end, just so that they can check the pricing. That's the last thing you want. So this gives you a way. What we're going to talk about, it will give you a way to do that very early in the process. The other thing that a lot of the builders I spoke to talked about was also the qualifying the client budget. So working out an effective way to qualify clients for budget was really a key thing. And so they had different ways of doing that. So some talked about a square meter rate, and as you can see, that's 2.5 to 7. It depends on the sort of work it is, where it's located, all that sort of thing. But what it really smacked of was that it's such a ballpark approach that it can be quite dangerous. They also talked about past experience, or actually going in and investing more than 2 weeks to do a full-blown estimate, which is obviously it's a massive amount of work for the sort of rewards that are involved in it. So it's a high risk use of the builder's time. So that's why we created ProCalc, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Basically, this presentation, what it does is that we look at the successful work methods of builders who've mastered all of these challenges. And so that's what I'll be stepping through right now. All right. Just on that, Paul, are there any questions in the chat box about these points so far, or are we good to keep moving ahead?
Yeah, there's just one real quick one. At what stage in business are you able to charge for the initial engagement? I mean, is this something you're going to talk about going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and for some people who are on the call will have fears of not being able to charge straight away. Others will be able to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the way to do that in a way that you can ramp it up over time, so that you can better align with charging. So the key thing is, though, that you do charge. Okay, and I'll step through that as we go through.
Yeah, and I think one thing is, like, a lot of clients that we've worked with and that we work with, they are scared to charge because they think they're going to chase those prospects away, which is it's a real fear. I mean, I would probably have the same fear as well, but I think, yeah, like just some of the stuff you're going to talk about in a sec will overcome that, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just real quick before we move on, I guess, yeah, Richard, you can move on to the next thing. But in the meantime, I would love for everyone here to just, in the Q&A box, just to write down what are some of the key other challenges that you face in terms of this initial engagement stage and phase with prospective clients. Yeah, that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, and happy to talk to those points too. So when we do the Q&A, so that's good. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so just real quick, I'm just getting a few Q&As just saying the chat is disabled. Yeah, just put it in as a question. That'll be great. Thanks.
All right. No worries. So what we've got here is basically a the process, or we're going to step through the process that we go through as builders when we engage with clients. And so obviously the end goal is to have a built product with or have a contract in place and then deliver a built product. So that's obviously the dream down the end there. But when we talk about the way this all kicks off, there's in those early stages, the client has a light bulb moment and says, "Oh, I know, let's renovate the house," or "I know, let's build on that block of land that we've got," or whatever the light bulb moment is, and what their project is. And what they then do is that they need to work out how to get from that light bulb moment to the build. What most of them don't realise before that light bulb moment is that they've actually been receiving a fair bit of marketing, and this is Cornet's territory, but they've been receiving a fair bit of marketing. It might be through content marketing, it might be that they've seen your site signage, it might be whatever it is. So the seeds to some extent have already been laid about how they're going to go about this. So that's a key thing to remember. But they have that light bulb moment, and then they say, "Oh, no, let's reach out to a few builders and see what the deal is." From the builder's perspective, though, they're saying, "Well, we need to quote it. We need to give a sense of the numbers." Now, the issue is that going from one end, from inquiry to quote, it's about 6 to 24 months of discussions. And you guys know this. You've lived this. So you're standing in the client's living room and you're talking about, "Well, we could do this, we could do that, we could do a whole variety of things," or somebody's, the husband or the wife or whoever it is has expressed some concerns about the way it all works. And these discussions, they go back and forth and back and forth. And if you haven't got a process in place, they are massively time consuming. And if you're not charging for them, they can be the end of you. So what we really want to do is we want to introduce some structure and some format to this, so that you can go through this process and do it very efficiently, but also be paid for it as much as possible. And when I say as much as possible, I'm not just talking about the volume or the amount that you're being paid. I'm talking about the stages or the number of stages for which you can be paid. So those 6 to 24 months of discussions, what we want to do is give those some structure. So obviously, before you can do anything, we need a concept, and then it would be a review, and then a concept redesign, going to prelim works, and then again ahead and going and doing the quote. Some of you will also be doing this step here, which is a really positive thing to do. So it's qualifying the client. So when they first reach out to you, you might send them the questionnaire, you might do an audition call with them on the phone, but you're really making sure that you're asking the client, what sort of job is it you want to do? What sort of budgets are you looking to apply? Whereabouts are you located? When do you want to do this? Getting a feel for what their expectations are, and really understanding what it is that they want. Because this step here to qualify them is key in making sure that you're only dealing with clients that are going to be good for your business. Now, quite a few people on the call will probably be charging for quotes already, which is a really positive thing, and you should be, because a quote takes a massive amount of work. Other people, probably some of the same people, will also be charging for these prelim agreements here. So the preliminary works that takes place. And as you guys know, prelim works, be it engineering, be it town planning, be it soil tests, surveying, whatever you like, there's a massive amount of work that goes into that as well. So you absolutely should be charging for any effort that goes in, that you put into it there. But there's stage before this that most builders, in fact, I don't think any builders charge for, or very few charge for. Now, what that is actually right back here when you first meet the client. So back at this stage here, when you meet the client, and what we're really talking about is the stage where the client can't even conceive how they're going to get to these stages of prelim works or a quote, because they're still stuck on these questions here. So the first one might be, I've got a site and I want to build on it. I need to work out how I'm going to build on it. Is the site, has it got suitable access for the builder? Am I in a situation where there's suitable drainage? There's an incline on it. How do we deal with that? those kinds of questions. So clients have those questions, and they really, in order to feel comfortable about going up to this stage here with the prelim agreement, they actually need to answer a lot of these questions. So the site agreement, the site review is going to tell them that. They also want to know about buildability. So they might have a set of plans that they've already got from an architect or a designer or whoever it is. And what we really want to do is make sure that the design can actually be built. So they desperately need a builder to look over the plans and say, look, this can be built. You can probably improve it a little bit in terms of the way it's going to work and the build if you do X, Y, and Z. So they need that input. The next is a structural review. So in other words, if they're talking about doing a renovation and opening up a wall, for example, then they need to work out, is this, if this wall is structural, what does that mean for the way that it's built? And so that's a case of, perhaps taking a ladder and popping your head through a manhole and having a look and seeing what's up in the roof space so that you can work out what's going on there. Obviously, they also want to work out whether they can afford it. So if they're in a situation whereby they've got this idea that they want to build on an extension on the back, or they want to build a whole new build on this property that they've got, on this land that they've got, they need to work out whether they can even afford it. And so that's what ProCalc does. And so it does it in about 15 minutes online for builders. So I'll step through that a little bit later on. The other thing that they want to do is that they will have a whole series of Q&A that are relevant to them and their project. So it might be about, the way, how do builders work, or how does this whole process work? And so they've got a whole series of questions that they want to ask you before they can go too much further. Now, all of these items here, so the Q&A, the estimate, a ballpark estimate, the structural element, the buildability, and the site review, these are all things that they desperately need answered well before they can even conceive or think about doing a preliminary agreement with you. So what that means is that all of these things are of high value to the client. So it gives you, the builder, the opportunity to package this up as a single solution, where you say, look, we will undertake a site review, a buildability review, a structural review, a budget review, and a Q&A, and we can compress that into a 2-hour session, and we will come and do that with you on site. So this for most clients is the trigger to stop or start a project that says, yes, once we've got these questions, answered to a reasonable extent, then we can actually go ahead and actually start investing serious money in the project. And so getting rubber on the road is really important. And this is the step that will do that for you. Okay. And so a lot of the builders that I interviewed, they were doing some of these things, but not necessarily all of them. And so what I've really done is I've taken these solutions or suggestions that were from hundreds of different builders, and combined them into a package that you can then use and basically use that to qualify clients and to make sure that they actually pay you for your expertise. So that's that key step there, and that's what we want to do.
Just real quick, Richard, just a question here. How much do you charge for that? I mean, and I know you're going to be talking about this, so I guess, that's a question that came up. So just Richard will answer that in 1 second. But one question I have for you is, why, if you charge a fee, and it's a lot smaller than charging for the quote and definitely the build, why, psychologically, what does this mean for the prospective client? How do they get benefit out of it, other than the actual value that they're going to get from you doing what you're going to do? But for them to psychologically pay for this at that stage, why is that so important?
Yeah, well, look, whether that client pays you $180 or $118, or $1,800, what it does is it gives them the ability to start a commercial relationship with you. So it gives you the ability to say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you do this, we will create this report for you. So they pay you whatever it is that they pay you, and you produce the report and give it to them. that gives them a bite-sized experience with you, so that they can come to understand exactly what you're good at. And the way that humans build trust is with bigger and bigger steps in trust as we go. And so giving them a small transaction at the beginning is actually something they need to do in order to trust you. Now, and what that also does is it sets them off on a journey whereby they say, all right, well, this builder has actually delivered on what he said he was going to do. That's great. We can now trust this guy to do the next step. And so they will just gradually spend more and more with you. Now, and look, there'll be a few people on this call that will have had repeat clients where they might have perhaps initially engaged you to do a bathroom, and then a couple of years later they engage you to do a $1 million extension or a $1.5 million new house or whatever it may be. But that's because, and that's exactly the same dynamic in that they've given you a small job, and then they've built up the trust, and then they've given you a bigger job. And that's something that builders, so many of the builders that I interviewed, that's a common dynamic that they saw. So what we want to do is we want to facilitate the client just spending a small transaction with you. And I'm going to speak specifically to that point about how much you should charge in the early stage. And I'll do that in one or two slides after this one, because it is a very, very important question. For those who are less confident, you can charge a bit less. For those who are very confident, you've got a very full pipeline, you can charge a little bit more. So, I'll step you through how to filter or tether or throttle that, so that you can make sure you're charging the right amount for where you're at in your business. I appreciate that there'll be a variety of people on the call. Some are very new builders, some have been around for a while, and so the amount that you charge will vary depending on your maturity and your marketing. So I will touch on that very shortly.
Yeah, no, like I agree 100%, and because I've got so many clients that probably one reason why they don't do it is because they don't know how much to charge, and then they just kind of go, okay, I'll do it later. But just a real quick story from my side. I recently, and this is probably where we're June now, so this goes back to like probably January last year. We engaged, we were looking to buy an investment property. And as a business owner, I'm extremely busy. I can't go and find a property to buy, and I don't have any expertise in buying properties. Okay. So I went along and I actually looked at a buyer's agent, and I had a quick chat with the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent said, yep, cool. So the way this moves forward, we're going to do what we call a strategy call. That's going to be $2,000. All right. And then after that, if you go ahead, that's where we'll map everything out. And, so he had his offering, kind of like what Richard just said here with his offering that the builder should have. And then what happened was, and then he said, after that, if you want to engage our full service to buy your property, it's going to be X amount, but we'll subtract that $2,000. So $2,000, it's not just pocket money, so it's something that like, it gets your attention, right? So I was sitting there and I just said, fantastic, this is great. I actually appreciated it, because what it meant to me as a client was like, okay, this guy's really going to look after me. I'm not just another lead in his process. As soon as I give him that $2,000, I'm a client. And guess what? I showed up 5 minutes beforehand to that call. I had my note paper, my pen ready, and I was engaged. Okay. So a key quote that you want to remember as a builder is like, if you pay attention. Okay. So if your client pays, they will pay attention. You will rock up to site, and it's going to be a complete different engagement as what it would be if you just did it for free, because they're probably getting 3 other builders to come on site. Richard loves this one. I know there's a video on our YouTube somewhere where he explains, if the client, you walk into the living room and their hands go up in the air and they, do this, then already. I was like, oh, wow, how's this going to go? And it's not the client's fault. It is just, they are not educated. They haven't done this before. And it's the same as me with that buyer's agent. If he said, yep, we're going to do a free call where we map out your strategy, get clear on everything, in my mind, I would have just been like, I would have been the expert as a client. I would have come in as like, hey, this is what you should be doing for me, as opposed to him being the expert. And guess what? I bought a property, everything worked out fantastic. I was with an expert, and I would do it over and over again. But that initial engagement, that was priceless for me and for the agent anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But I like that. If they pay attention. It's key. And look, I know myself, and I've done it so many times where when I, particularly in my early days as a builder, where I'd go and give clients free time, and they just, to be frank, they didn't treat you that well. They basically just sort of used and abused. And it's only when they start paying that it makes a difference. So yeah. All right. So look, just quickly on those various elements. What I'll do is I'll just show you the sorts of questions that clients ask that really will help you deliver value for that. Okay. So the first one might be, do you think have we got a design that meets the brief? Okay. And so that's where the client doesn't have a design. And so it might be that you're able to introduce them to a design resource of some kind, be it an architect or a designer. It might be an in-house resource that you have, whoever it may be, but actually delivering value there for them straight away and saying, all right, I can introduce you to Joe Bloggs, who's the best designer in the business, and he's the one that you can engage with. The next one might be, do you think I can build my home on this site? And so that's really, again, just about a site review. So the way that you can make this work is that the client will say to you, oh, look, is this site okay? Or is this design okay for this site? And so what that does is it gives you the ability to walk with them around the site, have a look at the job, assess it for sloping block, assess it for access, assess it for drainage, that sort of thing, and actually talk with them and say, well, look, you've got to keep in mind that there's a little bit of challenge with access here because of, you've got fences on all sides or whatever the issues are, but actually talking through them and building rapport, building trust with them as you do that. And look, that only needs to be a 10-minute lap around the block. It doesn't need to be an hour, just 10 minutes where you can talk about, that site and what it means for you. The other one that we talked about was the buildability. So, and that's basically when you look at the design, the client says, oh, here's what my architect did, or here's what the drafty or the designer did. How does this look? And for you to be able to look at it and say, look, this looks great. We could make this work a little bit better for you if we built it in a slightly different way. Still delivers the same aesthetic outcome, but it's just a slightly different construction methodology. That's the way you could do it. And again, what you're doing is you're showcasing your expertise with them. Now, what that means is that they are then genuinely getting value from the conversation, which you can charge for. The next point that I touched on was the structural aspects of, whereby you actually go ahead and you might have a look in the roof, you might have a look underneath and see what the stumps are like or whatever it may be. Again, it's only a 10-minute review or 10-minute exercise where you actually step through, have a look at it and say, oh, we know that wall's structural. So if you do open up this wall, then obviously we'll need to have a lintel in there, or there may be some engineering required for that. And what, again, you're doing is you're illustrating your expertise, but you're delivering massive value to the client, because an architect or a designer will walk up to that wall and hit it with their fist and go, oh, it might be structural. I'm not sure what they're trying to do with hitting it with their fist, but that's what they'll do. So at that point, the client's sort of going, well, how do we know if it's structural or not? If you're able to add value and illustrate, well, yeah, that is a structural wall because it's got struts in the roof over it, then it means that they immediately go, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm glad that I spent the money. I'm happy to spend more with him. The other is just doing some Q&A with them. So we talked about, just on that previous slide, I talked about the Q&A, doing 10 or 15 minutes with them, and just giving them the space to ask any question they like. Giving them the ability, because as you know, clients have just millions of questions, and which is understandable. So really what you want to do is just give them the space to ask those questions, and then you can answer them and just listen to what their pain points are. If they're fearful about soil erosion, if they're fearful about floaters underneath the, in the dirt or whatever it may be, talk to that, talk to the issues that they've raised, but just give them the ability to ask those questions. And then obviously they all want to know, how much is this going to cost? Because if you're the first builder that they've spoken to, they're looking at it going, Joe, I got no idea what this is going to cost. My architect said it was going to be 500,000, but gee, I don't know. Inevitably, if the architect said it was 500,000, it may be more than that. And so what that means is that they do actually need a solution. And so they need some numbers around that. So that's the ProCalc solution, which I mentioned earlier. So basically, they're the ways that you can answer those questions and respond to those. And so the idea is that if you package all of these things up, you can then charge for them. And that's the key question that that person was asking before. So now I'm just going to step you through that. So the first one we've got here is really whereby you're talking about clients who arrive without plans. And so they need a concept, they need a site review, a buildability review, a structural review, the Q&A, and also a price guide. Now, what you'll see here is that I've written in $360 to $5,000, and you're probably all looking at it going, okay, well, why such a big difference? This is really important because for those of you who are new and haven't got a full sales pipeline, attaching a low cost to it means that what you're really doing is making sure that the client is parting with some money, not a huge amount of money if it's say 360, but a little bit of money to make sure that they've got skin in the game. And that's really the key thing. We using Cornet's expression of when they pay attention. What it means is that even if they're only paying 360, and it might just be that you've had your drafty pull together, you paid your drafty $300 to pull together, a rough concept of what this could be, and it might only be that you're only allocating $60 to your time. Okay, so that's one end of the scale. And when I did this in my own business, I initially was charging 180, and then once I got a few more people in the pipeline, I charged 360. And then once I got a few more people in the pipeline, I bumped it up to 980. And then once I got a few more people in the pipeline, I bumped it up to 1980, so almost $2,000. So you can, I've done this myself. I know you can do this. You can grow it as you go. But I would encourage for if you're feeling nervous that you're going to scare clients off, start low, start very low, and to a point whereby it's extraordinarily good value. And so 360 for a setup for a concept is very good value for the client. If the client balks at that, then I would suggest that they're always going to be a trouble. They're always going to have difficulty reaching into their pocket and paying for anything. 360 for concept plans is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So the idea is that over time you build those numbers up as your marketing improves. And so this is the point that I was making earlier. If you've got really strong marketing, what you will have is that you'll actually have a fatter pipeline, and you can dial these numbers up. You can move it from 360 up to the 980, up to the 2000, and up to 5,000. I did actually come across a builder the other day who was charging just under $5,000 for this package. So yes, it absolutely can be done. And for those who are feeling anxious about attaching a price tag to it, just start low, start real low, and then as your pipeline fills up, just increase the pricing. The next one that we've got here is basically clients with plans. So they rock up with plans, and what you can do is actually, if you can start low, and that might be at that 180. And so all you're really doing is just saying, all right, well, we're going to charge you for a couple of hours of our time, or however it is that you want to phrase it, but really to cover these core elements here. All right. And the idea being that they're able to go ahead and you can produce this information, give it to the client. The client has spent somewhere between $180 and $5,000 with you to get this information, but it's given them a bite-sized experience with you. And that's really the key step. So they're the two key things there. Then obviously there's the prelim agreement. And so what I would really encourage you to be doing here, and this is about making sure that you're charging, obviously there's a whole bunch of consultants involved. You need to apply a percentage. You also need to apply a management fee to make sure that you're paid for your time in managing that. And then finally, actually doing a detailed quote whereby you're actually going ahead and charging for that. Now, the pricing that I'm seeing in the marketplace at the moment for builders providing detailed quotes sort of sits somewhere between $800 and $5,000, again, depending on how many leads they've got in their sales pipeline, how successful their marketing is, and and how much how well they've set up that process. So a really important step in this is to crank up your marketing. So make sure that you've got good, solid marketing in place where you're actually sending out ongoing messaging and marketing to clients so that they can actually become familiar with you and grow trust. Okay, now trust is massive in the whole process. So if you started way back here and you've started marketing to people with education-based content, so this is how you approach a project, this is the process you go through, doing that sort of thing, what it means is that you're actually able to charge greater numbers for these here. Okay, so in other words, if the client knows you, they've been receiving information and marketing content from you, then you can charge them thousands of dollars. If they don't know you so well, then you can probably only charge them hundreds of dollars. Okay, so that's a key thing to remember. So I'm not suggesting that you need to implement a massive marketing program before you can start charging for initial engagement. That's not the point. The point is that you should always charge for initial engagement, and if it's only $300 or $500, whatever it is, that's okay, because what you're doing is you're getting rid of clients that don't see any value in your time. They don't value the information you're going to give them. But it's really important that you communicate to them that you are going to give a review of this information. Now, to grow the amount that you charge for this information over time, what you can do is go back and fine tune and improve your marketing and actually grow the marketing base or your marketing effort that you push out to clients. So because the goal here is to really establish you as the guru. You might be a guru in a particular kind of job or in a particular area or a specific market. And that's really what we want to be doing, is we want to be positioning you as the main guy who can deliver on what the client needs. And obviously the more specialized you are, the more you can charge. So that's that section there. Now, what I'll do is I'll actually just show you a video now about ProCalc that just shows you how quickly that comes together. So I'll just go through to that page. And Corné, I might get you to give me a thumbs up just to make sure that you can hear the video. It's just a 4-minute video, guys. It's not a long one. So there we are. If you could just...
Hi, I'm Richard Armstrong from ProCalc, the Builder's Price Guide. ProCalc allows builders, architects and designers to create instant, up-to-date and industry-based construction estimates for sketch concepts. To start with, here's what your budget report looks like. It analyses over 30 key variables you've inserted from the concept that builders assess when estimating projects. It gives you an opinion of probable cost based on Australian builders' costing methods covering low, mid and high budgets to help manage clients' early budget expectations. It saves builders hours developing architects and clients' feasibility costs, and it provides up-to-date market price guides. It's updated monthly with real Australian builders pricing, and it supports concept estimates and also reality testing for your construction estimates. It's based on residential projects only, covering all types. So here's a typical project, and I'll just give you an example of how that works. So on the left-hand side, we've got you can see it's a new build. So over here in the calculator, we look at those various options there. So we're going to select new build, but as you can see, there are all sorts. There's renovations and extensions, there's basements, there's a whole variety of projects in there. First off, it's a greenfield site, so there's no demolition required. Total length of structural walls is 94 lineal metres. The ground floor area is 202 square metres. Whoops. 202 square metres, which will round up to 205 because it's in multiples of 5. The decking that's in there is 20 square metres. Now this site, it's an inner metro site. There's no significant excavation required. The glass doors and windows, there's 35 square metres. The pergola type is a closed, and there are 20 square metres. In terms of the quality of fit off in the wet areas, the client wants premium, and there are 2 wet areas. So they're both new. One's a small and one's a medium. Whoops. The next is that there's a powder room. There's also a large kitchen. There's no butler's pantry. There is a laundry. There's a medium solar system. There's no swimming pool. There are 3 skylights. There's no drop-down roof attic ladder. Site complications, there are some, because it's a metropolitan site. The finish on the outside is masonry, or the cladding, the external walls are masonry. Then you've got the client design expectations, which are marked at a 3, and these are all catalogued down the right-hand side here, so you can key them in. The average support required from the client is average. The project's in Victoria, and the construction contract, let's call it an MBA, and it's a closed tender process from 3 builders. Now, coming back to here, we're covering a few of the PS allowances as well. So we've got landscaping, which we'll put in there at 10K. We've also got a water tank. So let's say it's a small water tank at 3,500. And then from there, we go ahead and calculate those numbers. And what that then produces is this report. And so this can be provided to the architect or to the client to actually say, here's the project, this stage, run through an industry calculator. The important thing is that it thinks and estimates like a builder. It's based on real builders' estimates for real projects. And the algorithm is updated every 30 days. So we keep it up to date in line with market prices. The report takes about 15 minutes online to produce, and it can be issued to architects or clients with their specific concepts when they're at sketch stage, and that's ProCalc. So if you'd like to take a free trial, you can go to procalc.com.au/builders and take a free trial. Thanks, and have a good day.
All right. So that's ProCalc, guys, but I appreciate with the review templates that I've been going through, you would have been looking at them saying, okay, well that's great. How do we can do that? We can do a site review, or we can do a buildability review, or we can do all of that sort of thing. But how do we present that to the client? So what I've done is I've put together a template, which is this guy here, and that's actually available to you for free from our website. So if you just go to procalc.com.au and click on the builders button, and then go to free resources, you can actually download that free template, so you can make use of that. And the idea is that we pack, it's all packaged up so that you can then you can actually say to the client, look, we charge for this. This is what it'll cost you. And so that way you're delivering them value, you're answering their questions, and you're helping them build trust with you. The other thing that you can also do for free is that you can also take a free trial of ProCalc. So basically, it's a 14-day free trial where you can go ahead and put through as many as you like. And the idea is that you can then go and test it for accuracy, compare it to your practice pricing. And what you'll find is that as you go through it, you're actually able to save yourself a massive amount of time. So what we're finding is that most builders who use this are saving themselves between 2 and 4 days every month. So it's a huge saving. So that's basically it for the presentation. And I know that we've covered quite a bit of territory. So suppose what we might do now, if we've got some questions, have we got some questions there, Corne, that people may want to have answered?
Yeah, so there's a couple here that I'll read out so you can answer it, Richard. Thanks for that. Yeah, and in the meantime, everyone else, like if you have any questions, put it down there. Before we get into the questions, one of the main reasons why I started talking to Richard was some of our clients started talking to me about, ProCalc and how they use it and how can we incorporate that into the marketing that we do to send people to a consultation kind of like page where we sell the value of why they should get a consultation. And part of this consultation is we're going to give you a accurate ballpark figure. Okay, so one thing that builders need to understand, and I know a lot of you guys do, is when someone is building, whether it's the first time, second or third time, every time the burning question in their mind is how much is this going to cost? Okay. They don't know. They are not experts. And even most builders, if they walk into the site, yeah, they might throw out a ballpark figure, but chances are it's going to be completely different. So we've had clients start talking to me about this, and I didn't take notice at first because it's something new. I'm like, oh, what's this? What's this thing? Oh, it's just another gimmick again. So this one particular guy in Adelaide, he told me about it, and he said he signed up for the free trial. And what he did was he went and did the calculation. He went through all the questions that Richard just went through in that video. And then he did that on past projects. So projects that he already knows how much the end budget was. And he said it was like almost exactly the same, the outcome of what this thing estimated. Okay. And he said he did this with multiple projects. And then a couple of weeks went by and another client told me the same thing. And then I took notice. I'm like, this is valuable because again, when we do all the marketing for our clients, we break down a lot of like objections, false beliefs that their prospective clients might have. We're building this trust with everything we're doing, with their stories, their email campaigns, everything. And then, but what happens when the person inquires, when they go to this consult, like what are they going to get from it? And to me, as someone that's not a builder, just this whole like, how much is the build going to be? How much is it going to cost? Ballpark. So I know whether or not I should go ahead with this whole thing as a prospective client. That there to me is just valuable. So it's yeah. So thanks, mate, for creating this. This is like a godsend.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we've got Scott just saying like extracting the client's real budget. So he said, yeah, definitely agrees with this. This is a big one, Richard. I mean, you probably dealt with this a lot as a builder. You rock up to site or whatever, and then you ask the person, what's your budget? And then they'll give you some number, but it's not their real budget. So how does this work with, Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? There's an expression that real estate agents use, and that is buyers are liars. And when I first heard it, I thought, oh, that's just cynical real estate agents. But the more I thought about it, with working with clients and asking them what their budget was, it's very, very difficult, particularly if you haven't got any trust in there in the beginning, and you're still building that. Getting an honest budget out of a client, they might, let's say their true budget is 500, they'll probably tell you 400 because they want to keep some powder dry. And all that does is it just makes it more difficult for you as the builder to try and reconcile their budget with their dreams, because it's they've shaved off 20% of their budget, and yet they've still got very high hopes. So what we're really noticing is that if the builder is just completely upfront and says, look, this is what the industry calculator says your job is worth, how does that sit with you? What it does is it blows away all of this, all of the cloak and dagger stuff about budgets, because the builder is just overtly saying, this is what the industry calculator says. What do you reckon? And the client just goes, oh, okay. Oh, right. So that's what it is. And so they then immediately, they're not, trying to keep their powder dry. They're actually saying, well, that's we just don't have those kinds of funds, or we need to go back to the bank, or we'll need to do it in stages, or maybe we need to increase or decrease our scope and work it out. but what it's really doing, because the builder is being completely upfront and is using a third party, what it does is it flushes out all of the BS that takes place in those budget conversations, and just makes it very straightforward, because it's just the builder saying, here you go, this is it. There's no games. And so what you're really doing is that you're informing the client with really good, robust numbers. And so again, what it does is it makes them go, okay, well, this guy has a process. This guy uses a system. This guy understands. This builder understands what we're trying to do here. He's not going to try and convince us to spend more than we have. He's actually just saying, this is it. And being overt and upfront about it. And clients love that. They revel in it. And look, I think that the other thing to remember too is that whenever you're talking to a client, if you do say to them, oh, look, we want to give you all the information up front, and so we don't want to have any hidden costs for you, that does two things. Okay. The first thing is that it means that they then go, oh, that's good. This guy's not going to hit us up later on. But as well as that, if they further down the track, if somebody gives them a lower price, they immediately go, well, hang on, wait a minute, why is your price cheaper? They want to know why. And so what it does is it shifts the client from focusing on price to value. It shifts them to really thinking about what they're getting for their money, rather than being tricked or being lowballed early, and being hit up later on. So it sets them out of that discount mindset, and sets them into a mindset of saying, all right, we know that the industry says this job is worth whatever it's worth. To do it properly, it's going to cost about this much. So if they get a quote back that is somehow under that, they immediately become suspect on whoever provided that quote.
Yeah. And a lot of builders, right, they struggle with building trust. And trust is a huge thing when it comes to prospective clients and builders. And builders want people that just trust them. It makes the whole engagement so much easier during your sales cycle, and also the actual build. And I talk a lot about third-party validation. And that's why for a lot of our clients, we create case study stories of past projects, past clients, and tell that whole story. And in that story, make sure that we bring up some of the fears that those people had, bring up the problems that they had, the conflicts, and also the desires, what they wanted, and then show the builder as the solution. So that's a great way to build trust, is from using third-party validation. But what I love about this, like on the right-hand side of Richard's screen, the pre-tender, that there is third-party validation. It's almost like you can imagine yourself and you're about to talk numbers with the client. It's almost like you're standing opposite each other at a table, and you're negotiating. It's almost like two different parties. It's like a tennis match. Whereas if you bring this in, you can step around the table to the client, and you're on their team now all of a sudden. And you go, hey, look over here. Here's a third party point of view of what the estimate is for your project. And you can literally you can put your arm around that client, and you're a team together. And what that does is it builds trust. And yeah, like you said before, especially if they are getting other builders involved, that's going to get them to ask the question, like, why is this guy so cheap? Why is this guy only $700,000? And I can see on ProCalc, industry, estimation, like budget kind of thing, 1.5 mil. Why is that? And that'll, put the other builder on his knees, but on his heels. So no, that's great, mate.
Yeah, no, fantastic. No, that's really good. And look, I think I appreciate that a few of the people on the call will probably look at this and go, gee, I don't know how to implement this, particularly the project review aspect of it, smoothly. I would really encourage you to grab that template off our website and use that, because honestly, I have done this myself in my own business. And when I first started doing it, I was a little bit shaky with it, so I wasn't confident at all. I was charging I think the first time I did it was only about $180, and I thought, okay, I'll see what happens, and it worked really well. And then I thought, okay, I reckon I can charge a bit more. So I tried 360, and I just dialed it up and up and up. And in the finish, I was really just being able to charge thousands of dollars for that early stage, just simply because I'd come to understand how much this means to the client. Like, it's huge value to the client. And that uh, without this information, their project's not going anywhere. They can't progress their project. They've got a human risk barrier that just won't let them proceed until they solve this problem. So charge for it because they do value it.
Got a question here, another one. How can we trust the price we get given from ProCalc?
Yeah. Look, what we do. So so the way that the ProCalc numbers are generated is it's from real builders' jobs. So back about 2 years ago, I created the algorithm, and then what's happened since then is that we've literally put through thousands and thousands of jobs to calibrate it for the industry, and those jobs are all over Australia, from different states and different types of builders. And what we do is we basically update the algorithm every 30 days, but we take the builder's ProCalc estimate, and then we compare it to their actual detailed estimate, so that we can actually make sure that it's on the money. And so this is a big part here. I don't know if you can see that on my screen. I'll just get rid of it. But what I'm really trying to do here is make sure that the numbers that builders have are accurate. And the way that you can do that is to do the free 2-week trial and compare it to some of your jobs. And that way you can validate that the numbers are accurate for your practice, for your firm. And it just takes the risk out of it, because the key thing is that it's got to be accurate for you. And so I can actually show you how to calibrate ProCalc for your business without any worries.
Yeah, and that's it. So again, Jake, try the free trial, mate. Like I've had multiple clients do that. It takes 15 minutes if you have prior plans. Probably do it on a project you've completed already. You've got, exactly how much it was, see how accurate that was, and let us know. I'd like some feedback. I'm just quickly running a poll, guys, just to see a quick question. So if you haven't participated yet, no, I don't even see who's doing it. I can just see how many people are doing it. So the 3 questions are like, I'm already doing this, like charging for initial engagement. Next one is, I will start doing this moving forward. And also the other one is, I won't charge for the initial engagement. So I just want to see some numbers. And just in the meantime, I've got a few other questions. So Richard, is the ProCalc price based on postcode?
We're currently, it's a good question. We're currently experimenting with postcode. So we're updating the algorithm all the time. And at the moment, we're experimenting with postcodes to look at the way that we can use them to influence. And so the short answer is that we're trialing with postcodes, and we're going to be introducing more postcodes. But at this stage, the information that we're compiling is showing some trends that indicate we're going to need to put in a fairly tricky work with the algorithm, but we'll be able to do it. But it's not going to be something that happens next week. It'll be over the coming months.
Cool. Another question is, does ProCalc do detailed pricing, or do you have estimators?
We don't, no. So basically, the ProCalc is very much just about an early business development tool, or an early client budget validation tool. So where you can qualify or disqualify clients right from the beginning. So it doesn't do what a lot of those other packages do, like so you build exact, or you build a trend, or any of those. It's really not sort of a detailed management tool in that regard. It's more of it should be used as a tool to basically make sure that the leads you're pursuing are the best ones.
Yeah, that's good. And also just real quick, so we did a workshop with for those of you that know the Builders Coach, Kurt. So we did one in Brisbane last week, and a hot topic for that day was estimation and how crucial that is for any builder's business. If you get that wrong, a lot goes wrong. So that was a hot topic. We spent a lot of time on that topic, and one thing that kept coming up was that a lot of builders use ProCalc, and it was like literally the majority of the room, which is crazy. And but they still have estimators that they either have outsourced estimation or a lot of them have internal. All right. So yeah, it's like, I agree 100% with Richard. It's a great way, that transition point between your marketing and your sales. It's a great transition point right there. Because again, like I said before, people want to know some sort of figure. You know, is it going to be $100,000 or is it going to be 5 million? Like literally, I think some people think like that. They just don't know how much something's going to be. So that there in itself is a great offer. You know, if I'm about to like renovate my house and a builder puts in front of me, pay me $500 and I'll give you a ballpark, like a accurate ballpark figure, I'll pay that $500. Okay. That, just knowing that number is so valuable to me to go to my wife, yep, let's do this, or no, let's not do this. As a busy business owner, I don't want to go down this whole like thing with all these meetings and stuff, only to find out this thing's going to be $10 million. And I'm like, I don't have $10 million. You know what I mean? That's just an example, but yeah. I've got another question here, Richard. Off the back of that question, I think it was a previous question. We are in a rural, regional, and the pricing here is very different to that in the city. So will it be better that we wait until it can be separated into postcodes, as you mentioned?
Yeah, no, look, you don't need to, because what we do is we actually calibrate for your firm. When you do the free trial, we basically do a tutorial with you, and we show you how to calibrate it for your firm, for your local jobs, right from the beginning. So you don't have to worry about postcodes or anything like that. Don't get too caught up on you know, whether you're in a rural or a city or what your postcode is or anything like that. Really, what we do in the tutorial is that we just do a Zoom call, step through it, create your first estimate, and then what we do is compare that to your existing jobs. And what we then do is we go through and calibrate the tool to make it fit for your practice. So yeah, don't worry about the postcode issue. It's not real. The way that we operate, it's not really an issue.
Good. Just a question from me. Does this only work in Australia?
Basically, at the moment, it's just Australia, but we are working to. We're actually just starting to talk with a few builders, actually, for example, in New Zealand, whereby been a bit of interest from over there, and so we'll be developing that with those guys. And you know, in the coming next couple of months.
Yeah, only reason why I ask is because I saw a few people register for this webinar from New Zealand, so just curious. Yeah.
Cool.
Is another question, does ProCalc work with multi-dwelling sites?
Good question. So at the moment, you can probably it's only a single dwelling, but we will be changing that. But the way that you can do it, if you book in a tutorial and a free trial, I can actually show you how you can make it work for multi-sites, up to about 3. And I can illustrate how that works without any problem. So the answer is no, but I can show you how to make it work. So maybe that's the answer for it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a hot topic moving forward, just with rental crisis, so on. Especially on the Gold Coast, I know, you know, there's not many rentals, so I think this multi-dwelling is going to become a bigger thing.
Yeah,
which is cool. There's a lot of opportunity there for builders. So yeah, if there's any last minute, I'll just give everyone like 20 seconds to do another question if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll finish this pretty soon. Yeah, in the meantime, so just some stats. I don't know if everyone can see the poll. This is actually my first time I'm using Zoom webinar as a host. So yeah, we've got 50% of people said I'm already doing this, which is great.
Right.
I know that's just
Good.
changed. That's just changed. Now it's 46%. Because we've got another one on the other side. So, and then 54%, I will start charging for initial engagement moving forward. And 0 that said I won't charge for the initial engagement. So I think this is really great. I think the message got through there. Yeah, I'm keen to hear the people that said I'm already doing this, why they jumped on this. Is it to maybe improve their process, improve their offering, perhaps? And yeah, the people that will start charging moving forward, that's great opportunity. So yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
no, I don't think there's any other questions from the attendees. So if you have any questions, you can get in contact with Richard. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to promise, I just want to make sure this recording works, but I will email out this recording to everyone that registered for it, along with Richard's details. So you can get in contact with him there, ask any questions. Richard is a very approachable guy. He's not going to try and sell you anything. What I love about Richard is he's like same as us. We're just trying to improve this industry. Like we've got this love for it, right? So, and so many builders that I know personally, clients, non-clients, use him and uses ProCalc. So it's definitely worth having a chat. So yeah, thank you so much, Richard.
Good, mate, great to be on the call. I'm just glad that people really got value out of it. So it sounds like it's really been I hope that it does genuinely improve the way that you're able to work out, the best clients, get the best clients, be paid for your time, and not waste your time, because it's building's hard enough without having to having clients sort of jerk you around a bit. You don't need that. So yeah, I hope it's been really helpful. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.